Feel like you're spending too much time in Excel? Don't worry, I've got you covered. In this video, I'm going to show you some tips and tricks to help you navigate Excel like the pros. Hello everyone, my name is Angelica Chukwan, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how to streamline your workflow in Excel with a few simple yet very effective tips and tricks that you can start implement and using today in your workbooks. Let's dive in. One of the first features that I want to talk to you here on this tab is the fill feature, or sometimes referred to as flash fill. You're going to use that fill handle, and Excel is going to fill down the data based on the pattern that it recognizes based on the information that you've inputted. So let's go ahead and first start here with some simple text. So you can input some regular text here. You can grab that little fill handle, which is the name of that on the right-hand side of the cell, drag it down, and it's going to enter that information. What about numbers? Well, if I go ahead and start entering numbers in here, I can start by entering the number 1. And if I grab that flash fill, let's see what the result is now. It's going to input 1 straight down. But what happens instead if instead of putting just 1, if I put 2 down here below the number 1, and now I grab both of those cells and then grab the flash fill handle and drag it down, it's going to follow suit and it's going to input that range of values. Well, what if I'm not looking for this particular range here? What if instead I want something a little bit different? What if instead I wanted to count up by a particular range like 1 and 5 and change that way? Well, let's see if it recognizes that pattern. There we go. You can kind of see that preview there, and it does. So you can see already it's recognizing that really well. What about dates? Does it work with dates? Let's go ahead and see. So I'm going to go ahead and enter January 1st here, 2025. And then let's go ahead and see. We'll drag this down and see if it's recognizing it, and it is. Well, what about if we implement that same strategy that we did with our numbers there in the previous column? Can I go ahead and enter, maybe instead of a January 2nd here, what if I put in a January 5th, 2025 here? Let's make sure we input it correct. Grab both of those cells there to recognize that pattern and drag it down. Is it going to? And yes, look at that. It's skipping there now every so often based on the pattern that I inputted. Really neat. So this can help you. You can see how effective this can be in saving time. You can also do this for different ranges as well. I will just say that sometimes you might have to select a larger number of values in there in order to get it to achieve the result that you want there. What about months? Can I go ahead and input months here? Some of these common patterns. Let's go ahead and see. I'm going to drag it down. There we go. And it does. And in fact, you can see when it gets to the end of the year, it's going to start over. What if I wanted something like the month abbreviation? Is it going to recognize that? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. Maybe that's something we want to. There you go. You can see it's also going to recognize that. All right, days of the week here. Is that something else we can do? Let's go ahead and start with Monday. Oh, everyone's favorite day of the week here. And there you can see it is working as well. It will also take those abbreviations for the day of the week there. Whoops, let's go back. If I input just Monday and I drag that down, MON for that abbreviation, and you can see there with that preview, it is going to do that. What about, are there any other patterns and things it can recognize? It can. So what if I wanted to do, let's say Q1, and I wanted to input it this way because this is the way that we format it on my company, let's say. I can drag that down and you can see it's going to do that as well. Are there any other variations of Q1 that will work? There are. What if I typed in Q1 like this? Is it going to recognize that I want to do, Q1, Q2, and so on? And it will. So you can see it's going to pick that up there. There's other series of patterns as well that it's going to pick up. You can kind of go and test this out. Some other options as well are things like 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. You can also input a custom list. If you are using that all the time, you can save that custom list so that it's going to recognize that, and it's going to then be available when you are ready to input that in your workbook. All right, let's go on to another one of my favorite time-saving tips. So moving on to the checkbox shortcut tab. So let's say that you are working with a list and you want to use this for inventory or a checklist of some sort. How do you insert that checkbox? Well, there is the developer tab that you can enable in Excel, and you could insert a form control in here. But what if you just wanted a simple checkbox and you didn't want to go through that? Is there another way to achieve this result? There is with a keyboard shortcut. All right, so I'm gonna select a range of cells that I want my checkbox to appear in. So I'm gonna go with these and these. Everything here in these various food groups looks like a shopping list here. Make sure everyone gets their groceries for the week. Now, the keyboard shortcut you are going to use is going to be Alt-N-CB. And there we go. Now we have these simple checkboxes that are working for us, and we can have them there. I could have put them also at the top of these groups as well, but I just didn't for this demonstration. But of course, that's something that you can implement here as well if you wanted to. All right, let's head over now to our keyboard shortcuts. I'm throwing in some keyboard shortcuts throughout this video as we go, but I wanted to show you one really cool one here. And that is when you are, let's say, looking at a worksheet. And within that worksheet, there is a lot of calculations going on, a lot of formulas going on in the background. And you want to see, maybe this is a sheet, a workbook that's been passed on to you from your predecessor, from a colleague. And you kind of want to see, what's going on in the background, what kind of, what formulas have they put together in order to achieve these results within the spreadsheet. You can hit the Ctrl+ symbol there, and it's going to give you all of those cells and show you the formula within. So you can open that up very quickly if you want to see that, and then you can collapse it again by just hitting Ctrl+ one more time. Onto the Transpose tab. The Transpose tool is a really handy feature in Excel. It allows you to kind of flip the orientation of your data from rows to columns or columns to rows. It allows you to flip it very easily. Now, you may want to do this for various reasons: to reorganize your data, to make it a bit more readable, and just to improve the overall orientation of it in order to help with your analysis so that you can look at your data accordingly. So there's a few ways to go about this. One way, of course, is to select your data and to select those cells. So one way of doing this is to do Ctrl+Shift, hit the right arrow key, and then down, and it's going to select that range of data for us. To transpose this, we want to copy the data. So I'm going to use my Ctrl+C, and then let's say I want to transpose that over here in the worksheet. So you want to select the cell where you want the transpose data to appear, and then you can either by right-clicking and finding that transpose option, or you can go up to the Home tab. In the Paste dropdown, you can find that Paste Special and select the Transpose option. So now that's one way of doing this, but you may notice that it's a bit static. You can also then go ahead and hit Shift-Enter. It's going to copy that data because I still had that range of cells selected. What if I needed to go back and update that range or a value in that range, and I needed to update in the transposed area as well? If I say update, let's say May here, is it going to update over in May where the transposed data is? It is not. So how do we get that? Well, there is a formula in Excel you can use, and that is the transpose formula. So I'm going to select cell E8 here, and I'm going to type into this equals, and then I'm going to start typing transpose. TR, it leads me to a list of results where transpose is the first option. So I'm going to select that by hitting the Tab key on my keyboard, and then I'm just going to go ahead and select the range of cells that I want to be transposed. I'm going to go ahead, hit that Enter key, and there we go. We have that transposed data in there available for us to use now in our analysis. And again, if I go back and let's say I need to update a value here, we'll go with January since it's easy to see. And let's say I realize it should actually be 2,150. We can update that, and you're going to see that data is going to update for you there. So two different ways to approach your data when you're looking to transpose that information. All right, so the next one's a really fun one. This one here is how to create a table from a picture. So let's head over to the Table from Picture tab. And let's imagine that you have a table that's either within a web source somewhere that you want to pull in some data in from a picture on the web, or possibly a picture you have on your machine or from another file, and you want to create that table here in Excel. Instead of manually entering in that data or that information, you can input it straight from your clipboard. So let's take a look at that. So here I have open a PDF file, and here is an image. And I want to take this table and I want to input it in my Excel sheet. So first I need to get this as an image. So I'm going to crop it. I'm going to go ahead and select it here. And then let's go ahead and copy this image. And then we can do a couple of things here now. So from the Home tab, you want to navigate over to the Data tab. From the Data tab here, you can see this From Picture option. So we want to create this as an image now, and we can choose either Picture from File or Picture from Clipboard. Let's go ahead and select Picture from Clipboard. And it's going to take a second while it analyzes that image. Now, as it's doing that, Excel is doing its best to interpret that image into data that it can then populate your Excel spreadsheet with. You always want to validate that it interpreted it correctly, and it allows you to review each individual cell. So we can take a look here, and they'll be highlighted red if there's any errors, and you can see we do have one that it wants us to take a look at. Well, you can click this review button here, and the review button is then going to show you the value that it is interpreted. And to me, it looks correct. So I'm going to go ahead and accept its suggestion. And then notice it says there's no other items that require review. So we'll go ahead and close this here. You can double check and see nothing else is red, which is great. This looks great. Let's see, I can already tell there's something that we're probably gonna need to tweak and edit, but it's so minor and it's gonna make it so easy here now that we've just copied over most of this data. So let's go ahead and click Insert Data. Insert Data again. Again, it says you're responsible for validating the accuracy of your data. And here we go. So I can see right here, something's going on in cell C3, really in B3. I have the sales territory country, which is the title, the header of this column. We also can see that we have total transactions here that ended up getting merged in with that. So we can go in and just easily fix that by doing a little Ctrl+Cut here and pasting it in. Double click on the edge of that column there to get it to expand to the width of the data, to auto fit the data there. So that's really, really good. That looks a lot better here now. You can also see it looks like one of our values here got a little bit messed up. So you may want to just double check, of course, on the picture you copied it from. It looks like it just shifted the value of 12 million here and 17 million between our profit and our total cost. We can go back, of course, and we can modify that. This is just the same using the Ctrl+Cut and then Ctrl+Paste here. It's giving us that error because it's not wide enough now for that value. So double click the line there on the edge of the column G to get it to expand to what we want. Of course, we can then go in and format this as needed to format this as a table if we would like. We're going to take a look at that on our next tab here. All right, let's navigate to the Table and XLOOKUP tab. So here on this tab, I'm going to show you two of my favorite time savers in Excel. First is formatting your data as a table. It may seem very simple and straightforward, and you may already be doing this, but there are a couple of things I want to point out that may help you to make sure that you are using your time most wisely and most efficiently. I can't tell you how many times I've seen others spending time navigating the ribbon or searching for a button when they can use either a keyboard shortcut. Leveraging that keyboard shortcut can help save a significant amount of time if you're constantly spending time in Excel navigating back and forth to that ribbon. I'm also going to show you a feature known as XLOOKUP, which can help you search for a particular value using a lookup array and a return array. So we're going to take a look at that here, especially when you are looking at a wide range here. It looks like we've got over a few hundred of employees here we might need to look for in terms of their employee identification number and their IP address. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So you can use keys like Control Home to navigate up to the top of your spreadsheet to help you navigate around. Some of the main benefits of formatting your data as a table, formatting a range as a table. It can help with automatic styling. So you can keep a consistent and professional look throughout the data with a style, leveraging that once you format it as a table. It's easy to manage your data. It's easy to filter your data and to sort your data. It's going to give us those filtering and sorting options as soon as we create this and format this as a table. It also gives us structured references. And I'm going to talk more about that when we get into using XLOOKUP, because I don't know about you, but I used to get so frustrated looking at my Excel spreadsheets and trying to figure out, okay, which cell do I need to reference? Is it H47? What is that cell? when you are using these structured references, it can help make it a lot easier when you're looking at a particular column or table once it is named. To format our data as a table, I want to select the range. So I'm going to use my shortcuts again as we did earlier, Ctrl+Shift to the right to select all of the data between B and F. And then I'm going to hit the down arrow and notice that it drops all the way down to the end of my range in row 404. Now we could go up to the ribbon. I could go to the home ribbon or the tab, the home tab in the ribbon and select format as table. But again, try not to waste your time using that mouse and navigating around. It's as easy to format this table as using that Ctrl+T key. So Ctrl and T together on your keyboard as a keyboard shortcut is going to turn a range into an Excel table. You'll then see a dialog box appear that's going to ask you to confirm the range as well as if your table has headers. Our table has headers, so I'm going to check this box and then click OK. And now we can see it in fact has formatted this as a table. I have those headers and you can see those filter dropdowns. Incredible. So now that we have this formatted as a table, there's a couple of things that we can do. One is if we look at the ribbon now, that area at the top, I can see this table design tab that's giving me some additional options. Some obvious ones, I could choose to change my table style if I want. I'm partial to these blues here, so I'm going to keep it set to this dark teal table style medium 9. Now, table name over here on the left. Right now our table is called table 2, but the name of this table could be a bit more specific. This is a table containing columns like employee identification number, IP address, first, last, department. What I really think this table should be named is employees. And you'll see how this is going to be helpful later on when it comes to referencing the table. Now that we formatted this as a table, I want to show you how easy it is to insert a new column. Let's say I wanted to insert a column that is going to actually combine this first and last name here. So instead of having just the first name, I can actually filter by the employee's first and last name together. So we can select a column and then you can simply add a new column in one of two ways. You could go up to the home tab and then select insert to insert a new column or row here. But you also have a much simpler option from your keyboard. After that column is selected, you can go ahead and hit Ctrl+Shift+, and it's going to add a new column to the left side of the selected column that you had. Now, let's say that I wanted to create a new column that's actually going to be a combination of that first and last name. What you can do is you can type here into that first row. Let's go ahead and type out Nicolia Burdekin here. And then once we have that typed in the first row, we've typed that sample value. We have a couple of options. We could use the Flash Fill option, which is up in the Data tab, and we can use Flash Fill. That's one way, but you can also see the keyboard shortcut is Ctrl+E. So just below the sample value that I've inputted, I can go ahead and just type Ctrl+E, and now take a look at this entire column. It has now combined all of the data that is to the left in the first and last name column, giving me this full name column, which is beautiful. So the Flash Fill option is a great feature for you to use when you are wanting to combine data, extract data. So you're just trying to split up data from a couple of columns into a new one. It gives you a way to detect those patterns based on the sample you provide and create a new column or possibly split data up if needed. So splitting data up, combining data, these are all great reasons to use that Flash Fill or using that Ctrl+E shortcut. So we can go ahead here and rename this here. I'll go ahead and call this employee name, and there we are, good to go. Now, one of the next things that I want to show you is the XLOOKUP function. XLOOKUP function in Excel is going to be a function that you want to use when you are trying to search a value, look up a value and retrieve that value without actually having to, let's say, apply a filter and then filter down to that row. You've got a slightly better option. So I'm going to zoom out here just so we can see this, but I've got a little section over here on the right. And so within this range of cells here, we can see we have employee IP address. And so let's say that I wanted to return the employee that this IP address belongs to because I need to look up, something that has happened or gone on their machine. So I want this information. I need to know which employee is tied to this IP address. So the way that we can go about this, from our J4 cell, we can click into here because this is where I want that employee information to be returned. Whatever information it is, I want to appear here. Once we click into this, we're going to actually go into the formula bar. It's best to type out your formulas from that formula bar as it's going to be easier to read. It's going to be easier to fill, as if you try to type it in that cell there from the worksheet itself, it can get a little bit complicated. All right, so from the formula bar, I'm going to type out that equal sign. And here, the first thing we are going to input is the XLOOKUP function. Now, I like to do the least amount of typing as possible anytime I'm writing out formulas or code and leverage that, that code finisher, that helper there. And so I'm going to go ahead, that code completion, and I'm going to leverage that here now, and I'm going to pull in that XLOOKUP value. Now you can see the syntax here that is being required, that is required for the XLOOKUP function. We have lookup value. So what am I trying to look up? Well, I'm trying to look up that IP address. I could manually type in that IP address, or I can select the cell J5, so that it's going to go ahead and pull that in. So we can select that cell there so we can have that selected in our formula bar. So now my lookup value J5 is selected. I'm going to type a comma. Notice the next thing it needs is the lookup array. So where do I want Excel to look for that particular value that I have in J5? Well, it's going to be here in this column here. So I can use that Ctrl+Shift down arrow to select the entire column. But notice what we have here in the formula bar. We have the table here and the reference to the column name, which is very, very cool. I'm going to go ahead and type a comma here and you can see return array. Now, what do I want it to return? Well, I have a couple of options in this example. So I could have it return my employee identification number if that is what I wanted, but I don't have all of my employees' identification numbers memorized. There's over 400 of them here, or roughly about 400 of them here. So I'm going to click here and make sure that I have my cursor right where I want that return array to be. And now when I click into this, I'm going to select the return array here. So from F5, I'm going to do Ctrl+Shift down to select this entire column here. So now it's bringing in that entire column for me from employee name, which is perfect. Now notice there's a couple of optional parameters here that can be passed through. The first optional parameter is a value, what we wanted to return if no match is found. The second is match mode. This is optional, but it gives you the specific type of match that you can specify, like an exact, an approximate, something along those lines. Search mode is allowing you to specify the search order, whether you want that from first to last, last to first, something like that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put a comma here and put inside of quotations, I'll put no match here if there is no match to that particular value. I'm going to double check that it looks like everything is correct here, and then I'm going to go ahead and click enter, and let's see, did we get a result? Ooh, Kendall Began. Let's go ahead and confirm that here. So I'm going to filter down to Kendall's name now, and let's see, there they are. I'm going to click OK. And boom, look, that is their IP address. I have their employee identification number. If I need to look into anything further, I now have this information all right here at my fingertips because we were able to use that lookup value in order to do so. So we can quickly search and filter down by the employee that we want to there. That's pretty neat that we can do. So we can clear that filter and bring all of that employee information back. Let's say here that the IP address, let's try one that might not be found. There we go. You can see that that is not an existing IP address within our employees table. And when there is not a match, I told it to return no match. A pretty versatile function that you can use. You can search horizontally across your data, vertically across your data. You've got lots of ways that you can kind of search through and use this. And it even gives you a way to handle when there is no match or nothing found there. If you enjoyed this video or you found that there might be some other tips and tricks that maybe I left out, feel free to leave and share your tips and tricks in the comments below. If you are looking for more tips and tricks like this from us, be sure to check out in the description. I have a link there where you can download our Excel cheat sheet to get some more of those keyboard shortcuts that can help you save a ton of time in your Excel work. If you're looking for more Excel content from us, be sure to check out our on-demand learning platform, where we have a few Excel beginner courses, Excel fundamentals, Excel mastery, as well as a course focused just on frequently used Excel functions. That's all from me today. Again, my name is Angelica Chukwan. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.